Hi, I'm Shaul. People keep asking me about the gear I'm using, and I find those questions a little bit ungentlemanlike. The gear really doesn't make much difference to the results I get. Not anymore. It used to be the case, especially in low light, but that was before about 2012, when cameras became good enough to produce acceptable results in most light conditions and with most genres. Indeed, the size of the sensor in your camera will make a difference, but this difference is subtle. It's less about how noisy the image is or about dynamic range. It's more about the look, fall off from sharpness to blur, which I find more pleasing the larger the sensor, especially with wide-angle lenses, where smaller sensors are indeed limited. What you will typically get from a smaller size sensor is a very sharp subject with a sudden transition to blur, and that looks a little bit artificial. With larger sensors, typically full frame, 35mm, or even larger than that, medium format sensors, you will notice that the fall off from sharpness to blur is much more gradual, much more smooth. And it will depend on your taste, of course, aesthetic sense. But to me, that gradual transition is more pleasing. It looks a little bit more natural. The subject doesn't have to be extremely sharp. It can be only the sharpest thing in the area of the image, and a slight, I wouldn't say softness, but a slight unsharpness is really the way to go for me. This is why I like slightly lower contrast. Perhaps older lenses that can give me this type of a little bit less sharpness than the very best lenses in the market can provide. So basically, it's the lenses that have the largest impact on the look of the photograph, not the camera. And adding to that, camera manufacturers are really highly competitive. So it is highly likely that when a new feature appears in a new camera made by one manufacturers, within a year or two, all manufacturers will offer the same feature with the same efficiency. Recently, I've been watching a lot of gear content on YouTube, And it's not something I like doing, but you know, watching photography content, this is where the YouTube algorithm naturally takes you. Anyway, I've been quite overwhelmed by the number of videos discussing changing system, which is something I don't really understand. The reasons for changing systems are basically related to spec sheets, not to practical considerations, not to limitations the protagonists or the content creators of those videos face in their photography, in their day-to-day work. To me, and I think that to most people, the only valid reason for swapping systems is the lenses. If a different manufacturer offers lenses that are better, or shall I say nicer than the lenses offered by your manufacturer, it might make sense to make the swap, because lenses take time to be introduced. Let's take a manufacturer such as Canon. I don't like the lenses the Canon currently makes, because they are too clinical to my taste. So if I happen to use the Canon RF system, I would be compelled to swap, I think. But this is my pet peeve. For most of the users, Canon makes cameras that are just as good as any other manufacturer. In fact, it probably has nicer colors than most other manufacturers, which is also a subjective matter. In my estimation, even if Canon decided to start introducing nicer, more pleasing lenses that are made for portraits or for human subjects, it will take them 4 or 5 years until they fill up the lineup with sufficient primes that offer this slight softness. And I'm not sure I would like to wait that long until I acquired such lenses that are seamlessly supported by the mount, by the cameras. Leaving the lenses aside for a moment, I will go back to them a little bit later. I think that any other desire or any other reason for considering swapping a system is probably driven by FOMO. When a new camera is announced with new high-end features, it draws attention because it makes it possible for the user to apparently produce images or videos that were not possible before with older gear or simpler gear. The problem is most of those new features appear only with flagship cameras that are highly expensive, that are really not affordable to most people. They are offered to professionals. You must consider that it will take a long time until those new, very advanced features would appear in simpler, in more popular, more affordable cameras. So you really have to ask yourself, does my camera system or the gear I currently have limit me in any significant way? Or is it only aspirational? For example, if your camera offers only cropped 4K 60, does it really matter to you? Do you always need to shoot 4K 60 or perhaps 4K 30 or 24 would do? Do you really need this jittery, very sharp motion in your videos? Do you really need 4K? This video I'm shooting now is filmed at 1080 24p, and it's perfectly enough to my eyes. The lens I'm using is a very nice one, and this is what makes the difference. It's not the video resolution, it's the window lighting coming from my left side, and that nice poppy dimensional lens that perhaps makes my face more true to life. If I shot this at 4K or at a higher frame rate, it wouldn't really matter. It wouldn't make the video look better. I don't need 60p for slow motion. It's not enough for that application anyway. Now, to shoot 4K at a frame rate suitable for slow motion applications, such as 120p at least, you would need a much more expensive camera. But does the lack of that feature really limit you? Does it make your results less pleasing, less acceptable? Probably not. Same goes for color science. A lot of Fuji and Canon users swear by the color science of their cameras. But if you ask a Canon shooter, do you really use JPEGs straight out of camera? The answer would probably be no. Most savvy photographers use raw images. Now, of course, for video, they might use the output straight out of their cameras, but it is more and more common to shoot at 10-bit and grade the footage in post to make it look like you want, to achieve more flexibility in grading, in the color balance. Ironically, same goes for Fuji. Many Fuji users praise the film simulations offered by Fujifilm and the native color coming from their cameras. But do they use those JPEG results? Probably not. Most of them shoot in RAW format and process those files in front of the computer screen using all sorts of presets, modified film simulations that are made to be applied to RAW files. Fuji recently released a very interesting camera I might talk about in a later video. The X-Half, which is sort of a digital half-frame camera. And that camera doesn't shoot in RAW format. At least you can't use this RAW format. You have to use the JPEGs coming from the camera. And that was the biggest criticism of that camera by Fujifilm users. So despite praising this magnificent color science, which you might like or not like, it depends on your taste, on your visual literacy, aesthetic sensibility. And I agree, Fujifilm does have a very pleasing JPEG processing inside its cameras. However, does it really matter? Does it really give you any advantage if you throw away those JPEGs and use the RAW file in order to give them a more personalized look? I don't think so. Color science is mainly an excuse. Another reason that is commonly stated for swapping a camera brand is autofocus, its efficiency, its stickiness, its speed. But most of the users praising the autofocus of one manufacturer over others do not have experience with multiple systems. People who do have some experience, who had the opportunity to use modern autofocus systems of more than one manufacturer, will most likely tell you the differences are minute. They don't really make a practical difference. Seriously, if you shoot anything other than very fast sports or very erratic wildlife, and you have problems acquiring autofocus these days with those new subject tracking systems, maybe it's not the camera, maybe it's you. Maybe you do not know how to operate this very sophisticated autofocus system. There are many options available in those systems, and you have to help the camera decide what to focus on when it cannot do it automatically. Switching systems is a headache. You need a lot of mental energy to cope with a decision like that. You have to learn a new interface. You have to learn a new ecosystem of optics, of accessories. And all that takes some effort and takes time. I have switched systems twice. The first time it was the 4/3 system, the old Reflex one, stopped being supported and was replaced by Micro for 4/3. I really liked the lenses I had for 4/3. So naturally, instead of switching to an entirely different manufacturers, I stayed with the manufacturers who kept supporting Micro 4/3. Only later I realized that some compromises have been made to the optics when the transition from the reflex system to the mirrorless system occurred. So basically it was a mistake. Now, even when I stayed with the same manufacturers, I had some issues with adapting to the new Micro 4/3 system because those systems didn't behave the same. Autofocus was initially very different. It operated much slower, and you had to forget everything you knew about the old autofocus system and learn the new one. That was also a little bit of a moving target because with every new generation, the autofocus system was a little bit different. It kept evolving over time. In order to retain the beautiful results I got from the 4/3 system, I had to learn that Micro 4/3 zooms were out of the questions. They were simply not the same level as 4/3, the old zooms. And that took me time. It took me time to sieve through the lens lineup and find only the primes that gave me the results I wanted. The second time I swapped systems was shortly after the introduction of high-end Olympus lens. It was the 17mm f1.2, a lens that I really not only wanted, I needed it for the work I do. And it was just too expensive. I could afford it, but I didn't want to buy it. It wasn't worth the money. In fact, it was cheaper to buy a totally different camera with a lens that did achieve what I needed from it for that new camera. So I bought a used Nikon D750 and a Sigma 35mm f1.4 art, which gave me give or take, the results I wanted from it. And it was actually more affordable than buying that expensive Olympus lens. Okay, now I have a whole camera system and another camera that I can use with only one lens. So I wasn't planning on really changing systems initially. But then I learned how to use the Nikon full frame system. And to be honest, I quite liked the results. I didn't like the Sigma lens, but shortly afterwards I replaced it with a different lens, the Nikon 35mm f2D with its screw drive autofocusing, which gave me much more pleasing results. And I sort of fell out of love with the Micro Four Thirds system. I could really see the difference in the rendering the larger sensor gave me. So I started buying more and more lenses for the Nikon camera. Initially, I bought only D series lenses because they were more affordable and they gave me the results I was after. But then I became greedy. I started shooting in lower and lower lights because I could, and I really wanted to maximize the low light abilities of that camera. So I bought many faster lenses, mainly prime lenses of the Sigma Art series, all with an f1.4 maximum aperture. And that was a dire mistake. I still can't believe how naive I was watching all those reviews of the Sigma Art lenses that claim that they are superior to anything else on the market. They were, again, quite affordable compared to first-party f1.4 primes. So I got addicted to those Sigma Art primes, only to realize that no matter what I did, I didn't get those deep dimensional images I got with the older D series lenses. So again, switching systems had a learning curve attached to it. And I made a lot of mistakes, expensive mistakes that I shouldn't have made had I been more critical. And then Nikon stopped supporting its DSLR system and moved entirely to a new mirrorless mount. Fortunately, there was an adapter, the FTZ adapter, that enabled using all those F-mount reflex lenses on the new mirrorless bodies. But the transition involved a new interface, a new autofocus system, which I had to learn, and an entirely new ecosystem of optics, which again, I do not like, most of them anyway. I learned that some of the new Z-mount lenses are nice. They're made for taking photos of people, of living things. And they do produce results that are more natural, more true to life than most of its lenses. So this time I was more savvy. I learned from my previous experience and decided to keep some of those Nikon DSLRs I had. I delayed the transfer to mirrorless. I only bought my first Nikon mirrorless camera in 2022, about 4.5 years after the introduction of the Z-mount. Anyway, I implore you to think 10 times before you switch systems. In most cases, it's not really worth it. Not only financially. Switching systems is, of course, expensive. You have to sell all your previous gear at prices that are typically between 50 and 70% of what you bought them for, and buy your new gear at retail prices. It's also the energy required to get familiar with an entirely new ecosystem, an entirely new user interface of the camera, new lenses. Some of them might be better than others, or shall I say, nicer than others, more fitting to your aesthetic sensibility. By the time you will be happy with your new system, the manufacturer of your old system will most likely breach that technological gap and offer you a similar user experience anyway. That might even be better for you personally because you are well familiar with it. Now, lenses are a completely different matter because the optics have more impact on the look of the images you get. Those differences are sometimes subtle, but sometimes they are not. Sometimes a lens has a certain character that is impossible to emulate in post-processing or using other lenses. That character might be defined as a set of flaws that are typical of a certain optical design. Artistically, aesthetically, those flaws give you something. They give you the ability to convey some emotion in your photographs that are important. I currently own what I would define as 5 separate sects or tiers of lenses. Each tier giving me a different experience, different ergonomics, and different looks to the images. Of course, I don't need all those lenses. It's a lot. But maybe in the next video I will talk about it more. For instance, yesterday we had a beginning of summer festival. It's a national holiday here that celebrates the beginning of the wheat harvest. I took my camera and some lower contrast lenses that I thought might be more fitting to the event, to the high contrast light we had outside. Following is a series of some images I took during the day. I used the Light Lens Lab 35mm f2 8 element and the Seven Artisans 50mm f1.1. Both of them were shot at around f4. Light conditions were good. It was full daylight. I think that those lenses gave the images a certain character. I don't know whether to call it nostalgic or retro feeling, but they do have some look that is a little bit different from what you would expect from current day optics. As long as your camera can support the lenses you like, giving you a pleasant experience without too many bumps, you should be satisfied, because it's the lenses, it's not the cameras. That will be all for today. Thank you for watching, and see you again soon.